Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth That Heals podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today I'm here with a special guest, Deanna Repose Oaks. Deanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Can you share with us a bit about yourself and where you come from?
So I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. I uh, grew up in Santa Barbara. I had a little bit of a Hollywood thing in LA, and then I moved out to Atlanta, where I'm currently hanging out lately. Started my writing career out here in Georgia.
When did your poetry career or your writing career begin?
Well, the career itself started on a dare. My husband, I was still dating him at the time, but he had a friend who published a book, and it was an abomination of a book, in my opinion. It was poetry, but it had essays in it, and the essays would bisect the poetry, and it was just like, what is this? Like, the essays don't go with the poem, and the poem's in the middle of the book. Like, what? I don't understand. So he's like, I bet you could do better than that. In fact, I dare you to do better than that. So my first book was actually published on a dare. And ever since then, I have my friends and people around me, not necessarily friends, but bookstore owners and readers have been coming to me more and more and more every time. So like I get to the end and somebody's like, "Oh, you need to publish more. Please start publishing." So I just kept going. And right here, whoops, right here behind me, you can see I have 5 titles. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
And what are the titles of your books?
So my first one's called Lifespan. It is a collection, I think, of 113 poems I wrote since the time I was like 12 or 13, all the way till like it was 26 or 27. I whittled down 300 and something poems to that 113 poem collection. My second book is Poetic Reactions, and it is an experiment I did because I was like, I don't know how to write this anymore. I'm in a different space. I'm not suffering like I was. And so I took 2 words from people and applied a poetic emotion to it and had a poem for every 2 words that I got. And I did that 42 times and published it in that book. My third one is called Trauma's Death. And it was started as an argument with my husband. I realized I wasn't arguing against him, I was arguing against my traumas. And I was in a ball on the floor sobbing. And a poem just came into my head. And in the middle of this argument, me sobbing, I get up and I grab a pencil and I start writing it down. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like, I have to take this to somebody. So I took it to a therapist. And she was like, write all your feelings out, just write them out. And so I wrote 30 poems over 30 days. And the book Trauma's Death is the result of that. And my daughter was mad at me. She had read Brown Girl Dreaming and wanted a book of poetry to read, and she was asking me to if she could read one of my poetry books. And I said, you can't do that. All of my poetry has adult themes and adult words, and it has a lot of things that I didn't want a middle schooler to read. So she's like, well, then write me one.
Mm.
Okay. So my next book, Inner Thoughts, Poems Suitable for Middle School, was me writing about her experiences in middle school, anxiety, starting something new, questioning beliefs, everything the middle schoolers go through is in that book. And then my latest book, the one that I'm really kind of really proud of, is Don't Go Stay. Um, it kind of after I did Trauma's Death and I got through Inner Thoughts, I was still trying to figure out, I was digging deep into all my traumas, and I was having a really hard time because I had stuffed so much um into my life, like just stuffed down all the emotions and all the things that happened to me. I didn't process them. So after Trauma's Death, I started processing them with a therapist, and I became depressed again. And this was my third round with suicidal thinking. And my therapist suggested that maybe I write myself out of it. And that book is Don't Go, Stay.
Yes. And when you published your first one, how did you feel getting it out there?
Like it was a dare. Like I didn't it didn't really have like it was like, okay, so here's this book that I made on a dare. Haha.
Yeah.
I took it to bookstores and I was getting a lot of flack for because apparently I'd used the same publisher that this other guy used just to be, and I found out it was a vanity publisher. So it was like it was kind of like I wasn't proud of it.
Mm.
It was just there. It was just something I did as part of this other thing. Now, these last three, this last one especially, when I opened the box to this last one, I cried because it was just so much of my soul had gone into that.
Mm. And does your mother know about your poetry?
Um, did she know? No, she died before I published any of it. She wouldn't hear it anyway, so it wouldn't matter. When I was 18, um, there was this thing that happened. So my sisters were a part of a gang, and they were going around with these drug guys, and they'd come around to one of the houses or to one of the parties we had, and they'd offered me some crack cocaine, and I knocked it out of their hands and stuff, and um, because I was not going to do any of that. And apparently somebody had said that they had put like a hit on me or something, like I was going to get jumped at the
Mhm.
next party. So I left, and when I came back from that party, after the next day, my mom had all my belongings in trash bags on the front porch with my car keys on top and said that she was going to call the police, and I had to leave immediately. So if I didn't take my stuff and leave, then I was going to be arrested for trespassing. It was the January 1st after my 18th birthday, which
Mm.
I came to find out is the last tax year I was a tax write-off.
So as soon as you turned 18, you were out the door.
Well, I left when I was right after I graduated college or high school at 18. Um, but she had me come back because I wasn't there 6 months,
Mm.
and then she kicked me out.
I'm sorry to hear that. During that time, did you have any access to therapy?
Oh yeah. So when I was in high school, my sisters were doing drugs and they were up all night and they were doing all these things, and I was kind of like the square. I was going to school and doing all these things, and like going to sleep and doing things. So I was acting different than my sisters were. And so at one point, my mom picked me up from high school, took me to the doctor, had them take hair out by the roots to test my hair to see what kind of drugs I'd been taking for years, apparently, and did a whole battery of tests. And it came back that I didn't do anything. So she's wondering why I'm so different. So she took me to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist tried to get them to go into their, to come in and do a couple sessions with us and, to kind of like find out what the family dynamic were. And my mom refused to go. And absolutely said no. And the interactions with the therapist, the psychiatrist, and at one point he said, you know what, you'd be better running away from home and hooking on the streets of LA than you would be hanging around here because the abuse was so bad by that time. I had no self-worth whatsoever. And in high school, I had no friends.
Mm.
Everybody knew me. Everybody liked me. I hung out with everybody, but it wasn't like I had anybody that would I could go to or talk to or anything because I had nobody was going to my house at the time. I mean, except for the cops.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've spoken about your sisters, about your mother. Where was your father during all of this?
My dad he's the quiet one, right? He didn't stand up for anything really. He was at work a lot. He worked a lot. By the time I hit high school, my brother had been arrested, I think 20 something counts of burglary or something. Um, So it was a lot.
In the environment that you were in, it didn't sound very loving.
There were moments of love, right? So even I don't I really attribute a lot of like I have an intrinsic love that
Mhm.
I've never doubted, I've never gone away from. It has always been there ever since I can remember. Um, Sometimes I attribute that to an underlying faith that's just there, and I was born with it. And I have to think that I was born with it for a reason. Um, so to back me up even further, I don't know if I explained this during the interview, but I was adopted at birth. And when I was 4, I was told I was adopted. So I've always known I was adopted. And I tried to look for my parents a couple of times, but it was a closed adoption. So when I was in my 30s, I found out that California has a thing that if you're adopted in a closed adoption, you can write to the state and get um, paperwork back and left by the birth family. And so I wrote to California and I got that paperwork. And when I got it, I was shocked because my birth mother did say, like, the circumstances of my birth. I was a product of an affair. Um, Her husband did not want the baby. So, and my birth father would have wanted me, but he couldn't have me. So she decided to take a hanger to herself. And I was in the hospital, um, like like the last month of my gestation, I guess you'd say, because we both survived it, but and that's how my adopted mother found me. She was in the hospital. She worked there at the same
Mhm.
time. So I have a feeling that that experience kind of gave me close to God in a way, um, because I'm here and I shouldn't have survived that from from the accounts that I know of. So I feel that this intrinsic love has always been with me since the beginning. My grandparents on my dad's side really kind of took me. I was growing up because I was adopted one. I was always like outside of everything. Um, After my mom had natural children. So my grandparents on my dad's side, who had adopted my dad, had taken me under their wing, and I was at their house most summers, but I was usually there by myself because my sisters and my brothers were very destructive.
Mhm.
And she did not want their destruction in her house. So I was there a lot. Later on, growing up, I found out that they were hanging out with my other grandparents who didn't hang out with me. So,
Now I wanted to kind of pivot, and you mentioned that you have a husband, a supportive
mhm.
husband. Tell us how, if you can you tell us how y'all met?
That's kind of funny. It's a really great story, actually. So I had this friend. She was notoriously late for everything. And at the time, I was living in Santa Barbara and she was living in LA, but we would hang out and go to shows and stuff together. And on my way down to her birthday party, she calls me. She goes, "I'm going to be so late. I'm going to be so late. I need you to save me the table when I get there. Like, you need to tell them that we're here so they don't give the table because we were meeting in a bar called Gotham Hall in Santa Monica." And I was driving down from Santa Barbara, and I'm like, "I'm driving down from Santa Barbara, and you mean to tell me I'm going to be there before you?" And she goes, "Well, you're always on time. That's why I called you. So just make sure you save the table." And it's like, okay, great. Well, to cover our bases, because I was driving from Santa Barbara, she also called my husband, who at the time I had no idea who he was. And I show up and I tell the door guy, "I'm here for this party." And he goes, "Oh, the table's not ready. Go over there and stand." And so he puts me behind the velvet rope and all that jazz. And then 5 minutes after I get there, he gets there and says, "I'm here for this party." He goes, "The table's not ready. Go over there and stand with that girl." So we end up standing outside together, and I don't know who he is, and he doesn't know who I am. And we're just like, we're hanging out. And I was like, "Hi." He's like, "Hi." And that's it, like the whole time. we get then the table becomes ready and we get taken upstairs to the table, and of course we're the only ones there, so I go around the table and I sit in the middle of the table because I figure the head of the table is going to be for the birthday girl, and so he goes around the other side of the table and sits at the chair right next to me, but the entire time he's not hugging me. And I'm thinking, okay, so I don't know who this guy is. I'm not gonna, I try to make conversation. It was kind of like whatever. Then he has two drinks and he turns to me and asks me what my favorite movie is. And I was just, or what kind of movie is my favorite movie? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, the genre. And I was like, oh, horror. And usually when I say that, guys are like, oh God, I'm gonna move away. I'm gonna go way over here. And he's like, oh, really? So which one's your favorite? And I was just like, that's gonna be a hard one to answer, really. And he goes, why? And I said, well, because I like them all for different reasons. And so he's like, okay, so give me a couple of examples. And I was like, well, like Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite one because it's like boo scares. And Friday the 13th is my favorite because I always want to find out how people like are gonna die because they all die so differently and then like how many bodies are gonna be there. And Chucky's funny because it's like the doll thing and it's just like, and so we just kept talking like that. And I finally say, but Halloween is one that it's like it gets in your head. It's like there's nothing that's there, it's just in your head. So I like it because it gets in your head. And you go, oh, you like Halloween? I said, yes, I do. It's one of my favorites. He's like, would it be your favorite, or would it be? And so we started this conversation. I tell you, we're still having that conversation today, 20 years later. So, I mean, it's just fascinating. And we've been yeah, every day
Okay, here's a
since
question
then.
for you. What's the first movie you watched together?
Oh God, that is a good movie. Good question. I think this is going to be funny. I think it was The Lake House.
Which one is that
It,
one?
it was a romance one with Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves.
Okay, I haven't
And I
seen that
think
one yet.
I think I made him do it just as a joke. Like, oh, like if you really like me, you go see this chick flick with me, um, as a joke. But I think the first horror movie we saw together was Hostel,
Okay.
and I got up and walked out. I couldn't take it. It was too gory for me. I was getting sick to my stomach. I couldn't watch it through the end.
But that's a very romantic way to meet is at a restaurant waiting for your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have a conversation. Um, how did it make you feel that there was someone who was interested in hearing you and interested in hearing what it was that you liked instead of telling you I don't want to hear your voice? How did it feel?
Well, it was awesome. I mean, like I talk to him every day because he listens to me. He actually asks me how my day is every day. So it's really, really, really good for me. So he's been
Oh,
really good. I mean, like without him, I don't think I would have been through as much of the therapeutic healing that I have been. I wouldn't have stepped away from the edge of the cliff.
mm. And at the beginning of this conversation, you were talking about walking us through the books that you've written and also the writings that you've done and how uh, there was a time where you were having an argument with your husband, but then you realized you weren't arguing your husband. I think the way you said it was you were arguing with your trauma.
Hmm.
Can you walk us through what did you mean by that?
So he said something that my mother would have said to me. And it just immediately, I was just angry and I was just fighting with him. And then I said something that got him at that same level of anger. And we were just going at it. And it wasn't, I don't even remember what the argument was about. I just remember being on the floor and thinking about like, what are we really arguing about? Because it was something so dumb. Like, it was like one of us forgot to lock a door or something, or some laundry wasn't done, or the dishes weren't finished. It was something really stupid. And we almost went to blows over it. but it wasn't because of the stupid thing. It was because of the way that it was addressed. And when I was like on the floor crying and listening to, like playing back the argument through my head, like, where did I go wrong? Why am I arguing this way? And I realized it was because he had said something my mother had said.
Mm.
And it was just like, wait a minute, what? And I wrote a poem about it, and the poem, of course, became the title of the book. And then I just kept writing because I was going to therapy at the time, and it just kept coming out. And through that, I found out I was suffering from depression, and I was suffering from these traumas that were in just really deep inside that I just held on because my life, I mean, I find out I'm adopted at 4. I'm not like I'm looking at my identical twin sisters who, they look exactly alike. I know I don't look like them. I'm at the time I was really blonde, I have green eyes, I have light skin. They're of Italian, Mexican, Portuguese descent, so they have like olive skin and dark hair and dark eyes. I stuck out like a sore thumb. I was always like not there. Um, And then like growing up, it's just like I was kind of just always separated from everybody. And then, by the time high school came around, it was just a lot of just cops everywhere all the time, just constantly just I mean, I remember eating Saturday detentions to go and do my calculus homework because a calculus teacher was a Saturday detention person. So I would purposely get Saturday detention and everybody be happy that I got Saturday detention at home because like I was fitting in. And at school, I was just doing it so that I could get help with my homework.
So going back to the poetry, how did it change your life when you started writing, not just out of a dare, but because you wanted to write?
So it became to where, okay, so I was a scapegoat in my family. So like anything that went wrong was my fault. And my daily truth would change all the time. So writing it down, especially in poetic form, because my mom did not read poetry, so she couldn't look at it and say, "Oh, she's blaming me for this," or "She's, doing that," or "She's, there was no retaliation that could happen because she couldn't figure out what it was I was really talking about. Because there's this over layer of easy words, but if you actually listen to it underneath, there's this underlying emotion that is just really strong in it. And because she couldn't see what I was feeling, I could express it freely. So the next day, when everything about yesterday had changed because the story is different now, I could go back to my poem and say, oh, that's how I was feeling yesterday. I am right. I am valid. If I had written it out in journal form, which I had done for a while, I was writing in my journals every day, all the little things that happened, like, hey, so and so said this, so and so said that, just so that I could keep track of who was saying what to whom and when and why, because I was getting in trouble for things I didn't even know happened and it was my fault. Um, when my mom found that, I got in double trouble for lying, writing all these lies about everybody. So writing the poetry kind of gave me a sense of time and space and place. So a lot of my poems are moments. They're like captured moments, like crystallized emotions within a moment. And I, I have a couple of them in there, especially in this new book. One that's talking about coming out of a matinee theater, right? So I described the feelings of coming out of the matinee theater. If you've ever been to a matinee, you would know what I'm talking about. But if you had ever gone through a mental health crisis, you would know what I'm talking about. But it's just about a matinee. So if you were to read it and not know that what I was talking about was a mental health crisis, you would relate to it because it's about a matinee.
Mm.
So that's the kind of thing that I kind of do naturally, just to kind of it was my touchstone. You know, little spinny top and inception. That's
Yeah.
poetry for me.
Well, thanks so much for sharing. And Before we wrap this up, I wanted to ask you a question that I ask everyone who's on the show, and that is, uh, what is your truth that heals?
So, my truth that heals is that love is not yours to get, it is something you give. And the more you give, the stronger it becomes. And you can give love to people who are toxic and from far away. You don't have to have the toxic people right there and still love them. You can love them from far away so that they don't, their toxicity does not affect your life. You can still love them. You're allowed to do that if that's how your heart feels. But know that the boundaries that you can set boundaries and you can push them further away from you while still loving them because it's not, they don't have to give it back to you. You don't need to get it from them. You need to give it out to people. And I think that's the thing that really saved me was the fact that I was giving love to everybody and not like demanding it back.
Now, for your poetry, where can people not just hear you talk about your poetry, but where can people buy your poetry?
So my poetry is on Amazon. It's on bookshop.org. I love bookshop.org more than Amazon because they give back to local bookstores and author and indie authors. I have a link tree. So linktree dash Deanna Repose Oaks is my link tree. It has links to all of the places you can buy my books. It has I also, for my latest book, Don't Go Stay, I also, every time somebody purchases it, I make a donation to 988, which is the National Suicide and Crisis Helpline, where caring counselors are available 24/7 for mental health crises. Um, I give to them so that they can help people who are on the verge of a mental health crisis. Um, because I was there multiple times and I really wish I had known about a national hotline at the time. So I give to them.
Well, thank you so much, Deanna, for being a guest here on the podcast. And to those in the audience, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and please share so other people can find out more about the poetry of our guest today, Deanna Repose Oaks. And again, Deanna, thank you for being here on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.